Hello everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel, your ultimate destination for beginner-friendly Python tutorial from the scratch. In today's video, we will cover everything you need to know about declaring variables in Python, from understanding their naming rules to exploring the different data types you can store within them. We will also delve into the concept of assigning variables to multiple values and updating them as your program runs. So don't worry if you are new to programming or Python, we will start from the basics and gradually work our way up to more advanced examples, ensuring that you grasp each concept along the way by the end of this video. You will have a solid understanding how to declare variables, use them effectively, and write cleaner and more organized code. So, if you are ready to level up your Python skills and unleash the full potential of variables in your programs. So, ready? Hit that play button and let's get started. And as always, if you have any questions or need further clarifications, don't hesitate to leave a comment below. We are here to support you on your Python journey. Alright, let's enough talking. Let's jump right into the fascinating world of Python variables. I will see you all on the other side. So before we begin, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you never miss any of our upcoming Python tutorials and programming tips. Okay, let's start. So in today's session, we are going to cover the following four fundamental topics, which are what is a variable and what are the variable naming conventions and rules we have in Python, and how to declare variables and the scope of variables. We are going to cover all these four fundamental topics theoretically, and then we'll jump into the practically how to create variables and how to work with variables in Python. So let's start what we see and what is a variable. So generally, variables form the building blocks of programming in Python. Whether you are a beginner or an experienced programmer, understanding variables is crucial for your Python journey. So variables play a crucial role in storing and manipulating a data in real time. So here the variable acts as a container that stores or holds a values of any kind, and it allows us to access the data which is stored in variable, and we can modify them throughout our code. So in Python, a variable is like a container that holds a value. So let's for example think of it is as a labeled box. So here we have two labeled boxes. One is labeled as number, another one is text. So in numbers box we are going to store only the data which is related to numbers, and the another one we are going to store only text related data. Similarly, a variable is going to a variable can store different types of information such as numbers, texts, lists, or even more complex objects kind of data. So for example, we can take a calculations also. Variables are also useful for performing calculations in a program. So for example, if a programmer needs to calculate the area of a rectangular, so the length and the width, these two values can be stored in a variables and used in the calculation. We can see this practically how we can create and store these variables and use for calculation in the coming session. So unlike the other programming languages, Python is dynamically typed, which means that Python does not require you to declare a variable data type before assigning a value to it. So without declaring any data type in Python, Python automatically assigns the data type based on the value assigned to the variable. So unlike the other programming language, here we do not require to assign which kind of data we are assigning. So the declaration is not required. For instance, for example, if we assign a text string to a variable, for example, if you observe here, we have created a variable. We have a variable name called program name, and we assign some random text Python. So in this case, Python will recognize it as a string type automatically. So here we are not declaring any data type. This type of a variable is inferred based on the value assigned to it. So here here program name is one variable, and we assigned Python string data type value to a program name using an operator, an assignment operator, equal operator. Unlike in other programming language, similarly in another programming language, when you want to create a variable, you declare a data type, which type you're going to assign, and the name and the value. For example, you want to create a variable type of string, and you have to declare the string type, which type you are using. You have to declare that type, and you have to give the name and Python the value. So but in here Python, you do not require that. So this is about a variable in Python, and the difference between the can compare to other programming languages. Variables are when clear working with the variables, it is quite easy. That's it about variables. And let's jump into another topic. We have an exciting topic to dive into, one that's fundamental to writing clean and organized Python code. About that's nothing Python variables naming convention. So you might be wondering, why do we need naming conventions for variables in Python? Well, just like any spoken language, a consistent and clear naming convention in Python helps us communicate better and understand our code effortlessly. It also makes our code more readable and maintainable, not just for ourselves, but also for our fellow developers. So let's see what are the rules we have while naming variables. The Python community follows a widely accepted style guide called PEP8. It is the latest version, and this guide provides a set of recommendations for writing clean and consistent Python code. One of the essential sections of PEP8 is all about naming conventions, from variable names to function names, classes, and more. So now let's take a look at some examples of good and not so good variable names. We will explore why choosing descriptive names can make a significant impact on our code readability. So let's see what are the rules we have while giving a names to variables. So by creating the variables in Python, it's important to follow best practices for naming conventions to ensure readability and maintainability of your code. So here are few rules. So always a variable should start with a lower letter or an underscore. It should always start with a lower score or underscore. If we create a variable with any other special characters, or if any numerics, then it is an invalid variable. We will see in practically. And if a variable name consists of multiple words, it should be separated by an underscore. So if single variable name consists of two multiple words, then we have to separate it with using an underscore. And it is important to note that variables are case sensitive. So here small x and capital X, these two would be considered as two separate variables. These two are not same. When we create variables with the two, one small x and 2x, these two would be considered as two separate variables. And we have the following naming convention methods in Python. Specific naming methods, naming convention that should be followed. We will see what are those. One is camel case, another one Pascal case, and the third one is snake case. So ever wondered whether to use camel case or snake case or Pascal case for your variables? We will explain the differences and help you understand when to use each style. Understanding these naming conventions will not only make your code look clean, but also show others that you are a Python pro. So let's see what is camel case. So the first letter of the variable name in camel case, it should be in lowercase, and each subsequent word in the variable is capitalized without using any separators between each word. So if you observe here, we have two variables we created using camel case technique. One is my variable name and another one is some function name. So my variable name, in my variable name, the first word is started with small letter and the subsequent two words, variable name, variable and name, are started with capital letters. So the always in camel case, the first letter should be always in small case and the subsequent two words, so the subsequential words should be in capitalized. So this technique is called camel case, and this technique generally we use while naming variables and while naming functions and for methods in Python. In these areas we can use camel case techniques. Coming to the Pascal case, each word, the first letter of the variable name is capitalized and each subsequent word in the variable is also capitalized. So without using any separators between the words. So it is called Pascal case technique. So here we have two examples, my class name and employee details. All the words are started with capital case words only. And we can use Pascal case while naming classes or types in Python. So while creating a classes and types in Python, we can use the Pascal case techniques. Let's see the final one. What is a snake case exactly? So in Python, the most commonly used convention naming method for variable names is snake case, where here words are written in lowercase and separated by underscores. So the each word is written under using lower cases and the words are separated by underscores. So this technique is called snake case technique. This is how we create a variable using snake case technique. We separate each word with an underscore. So for creating, it is also the mostly used technique for creating function names and variable names. We use a snake case techniques. So variable naming is not just about following rules, it is also about choosing meaningful names. So we will share some best practices and tips to pick names that clearly convey the purpose of your variables. Naming is an art, so we are here to guide you. So let's choose. We have some meaningful names whenever you are going to create a variable. So for example, if you see in the example one, while creating a variable, bad variable name refers to here x is a bad variable name. The improved, if you want to store some numbers in a cart, so x is a bad variable name. So the improved variable name should be number of items in a cart. So this is the type of meaningful variable. We have another example. So data, whenever you want to store some number of customer records and you want to create a variable, so giving the data as a name is not a good name. So the improved version is the customer records. And the third one, for example, another example, if you want to store some user information in a variable, and it should not be like info, it should be like user information. So these are some examples how to choose a meaningful names. And while creating variables in Python, generally it has some reserved words and keywords that are used to define the language's syntax. We will discuss how to steer clear using of these words as variable names to avoid potential conflicts and confusion. So for example, in Python we have we have a reserved word called class. So if you try to create a variable name with reserved class name, it is not a valid variable name. So we should avoid all those kind of using reserved words in Python while creating a variable names. Another example is a def. So while defining a function, we use def reserved keyword. So we should not use this for a variable while naming a variable. Another one, import. So import is one of the reserved keyword in Python, and we are not allowed to use that. So we have to avoid all these use all these reserved keywords while creating variables in Python. And let's see some proper and improper variable names. So proper variable names are the above listed variables are proper variable names. Username, a variable to store name of a user, and total sales, it is one kind of variable name to store total users, total sales of product, and employee salary, a variable to store the salary of an employee. Pi, a variable to store the value of mathematical constant pi. And here are some improper variable names. U, a vague and unclear variable name. TS, abbreviations that are not meaningful to the context. So we should follow the others can understand it. It should show clear naming variables. It should show the purpose and the meaningful names whenever you create a variable and whenever you name a variable in Python. That's all about naming variables. If you have any queries on the naming variables, please don't forget to ask in the comment section. Now let's explore about declaring variables in Python. So in Python, we use simple assignment statement where we give it a name and assign a value to it. So for example, let's say we want to store a number 10 variable and number 15 variable to number 15 value to two variables. So here x is a variable and we stored 10 value in the x using equal to operator, assignment operator, and y is another variable and we stored 15 in the y variable using equal assignment operator. So to assign in Python, to assign a value to a variable, you must use the equal sign after the variable name and then assign the value to it. So here name is another variable and we stored string data type value in the name. So in Python, you have the option to either declare a single variable at a time or declare a multiple variables simultaneously. So let's look into one by one. So single variable example we have already discussed. So here location is one kind of variable and we stored Switzerland data, which is Switzerland text in location variable. So if you see multiple variables examples, here we created two variables at a single time and we stored two values in two variables. Switzerland stored in location and Gen 300 stored in flight number. This is how we can create a multiple variables in Python. Each value on the left side of the equal sign corresponds to the value of on the right side on the same position. So if you observe here, the left side, each variable on the left side of the equal sign correspond to the right side of the value. So the first value is going to store in the first variable and the second value is going to store in the second variable. This is how multiple we can create a multiple variables example. So assign the same variable to multiple we have another option, we can assign the same value to multiple variables. So if you see, we created two variables but we assigned only one value. So it's going, the Switzerland is going to store in two variables. Location is equal to Switzerland and destination is equal to Switzerland. So we will see practically this once we complete theoretical part. And let's see another example, variable manipulation. So in variable, we can, once we create a variable, we can manipulate it. So for example, in the location, we given New York as a value for location variable and we created another variable called tourist spot. In the tourist spot, we are going to store the information of this location variables and another one. So this is how we can manipulate a variable data. Like I explained in the initially, we can store and we can access the data and we can manipulate it. We will see practically. And assigning a new value. So in the above variable, we given value as New York, but in the second example, we are giving the location as London. So this London is going to replace a New York. So if you want to see the output of the location, it is going to print as London. So if you want to see the output of these variables in the screen, you will use Python function in Python. It is used, Python is a one of the print function we use in Python to print a specified message on the screen. So print is a inbuilt function in Python. It is used to print a specified message on the screen whenever you want to see the output of the program. So let's see, that's it about the variables declaration, how to create a declare. So and we'll see about the Python local variables and global variables and the scope. So Python has different scopes of variables such as global and local scopes. It is important to understand these concepts and how they affect the visibility and accessibility of variables. For example, if a variable is defined within a function, it may be it may not be accessible outside of that function. So when we declare a variable within the function, only that function can access the variable. It means we have topic functions. We will see later, but just for an idea, I'm just explaining about local variables and global variables. So when we declare a variable within the function, only that function can access the variable. It means we cannot use the particular variable anywhere outside the function. This is called a local scope or local variable. So for instance, for example, if you buy Adobe Photoshop, so you can only use the Photoshop features, so not the other features. This is example of local variable scope. That's how a local variable works. So this is the example how a local variable is going to be declared. So here we created a function called appreciate, and we created a variable called text, and we stored good job information in the text, and we want to print that text on the output screen. So here we calling the here we accessing the variable text inside the function only, so that it will give us the results. When you try to access the same variable outside the function, we will not get any output. So this is called a local variable. So we cannot use this variable outside this function. We can use only inside this function, inside the scope. So this is called a local scope or local variable. We will see practically how exactly it is working. And let's see what is a global variable and the scope. So we can use global variables in any part of the program generally. So unlike local variables, we can use global variables in any part of the program. They are available for use throughout the program until the code finishes running, or the variable is intentionally deleted. It is necessary to declare global variables at the start of the program outside any functions or clauses. So let's see example. So we begin by declaring the global variable text at the beginning. So we declared a global variable called text at the beginning of the program. We then use this example leave both inside and outside the function. So if you see here, we have declared a text variable, and we are using, this is called appreciate function. We are using this variable inside the function, and we got the output as good job when we run the program. Similarly, we are using the same variable outside the function. This is a function we called, and we used that variable in the outside function, so it works. So this is how a global variable works. This is called a global variables. So that's all. This is how we can access and modify the text variable from anywhere in the code. So that's all about theoretical part, about the variables and the naming conventions and declaring variables. Let's see how we can work in programming, and how we can create variables in Python. So before starting, we have a separate video about Python installation and the IDE in the environment installation. We have separate video for that, and you can go through that video and please access and know how to install. So if you have already installed, not an issue. If you don't have, it's up to your choice whether you can install a IntelliJ or PyCharm or any other editor available in the market. So we have already installed PyCharm, and throughout the series we're going to use the PyCharm only. We have a Python tutorial project created. Under that, for today's tutorial, we are going to create one file called Python file, and we are naming it as variables. So like I explained, variables can store information of different kind. For example, I'm creating a variable called name of the student equal to Ravindra. See, like I said, if you don't follow the naming rules, I haven't separated it is with underscore, so it's giving us some error. So now again, name of the student Ravindra. So it is here Ravindra is a type of, I will explain the different kind of data types available in the Python in the upcoming session. So now here the Ravindra is a type, it is a string data type, and we are storing Ravindra information in the name of the student variable. So if you want to see the output of this variable, we use print function. Print name of the student, that particular variable. And if you run this program, it will give us the result as name of the student and run. If you observe, we got the text, the Ravindra, which is stored in the name of the variable Ravindra. Similarly, if you want to create another variable called x, and we want to store the information, we want to store the number 10, and you want to create another one, and you want to store 15. Like I said in the previous explanation, small x and capital X are two different variables. These both are not same. So if you want to perform a calculation, x plus x, see what we will get, x plus x, small x and capital X. If you want to run this, it will give us the result as 25. See, we have total 3 variables created. One variable stored Ravindra and another 2 variables stored integer data, that is 10 and 15. These are not required, semicolon, so we can avoid. So if you run, we will get 25 and Ravindra. So always remember, Python variables are case sensitive, and like I said, do not use any reserved keyword while creating a variable. So if you want to create a variable name with import is equal to, I want to store some information in this. If we run this, it will go say import, invalid syntax. So import is a reserved keyword, so we should avoid using reward keywords while naming variables. So instead of that, we can give some text unknown. So this is one variable. This is how we create variables in Python. So we can store integers, and we can store strings, and we can store different kinds of data. So here we do not require to declare any kind of data type before creating a variables. Let's say how we can manipulate a variable. So I'm creating location is equal to New York. So this is one variable, and we can manipulate the above variable. And I'm creating city equal to LA. So now I'm going to print city LA plus location. So I created city variable using the existing variable. So if you want to print the city variable, it prints two names. One is New York, another one is LA. LA plus New York. See, LA plus New York. This is how we can modify, we can manipulate variables. Also assigning multiple values to a single value to multiple variables. Like I said, location is equal to country equal to New York. So this is the way we can assign a single value to multiple variables. So if you print location and country, if you want to print location, we will get location, and also if you want to print country, we can print. So we can see multiple times the New York, and for location and country. See, for location we got New York, and country we got New York. So this is how we can assign a single value to multiple variables. And let's see about declaring local variables and global variables. So first we see about local variables. So I'm going to define a function called appreciate. We will going to explain how to how to create functions in the upcoming session. And I'm creating a variable called text and storing information good job. This is a string data type, and I want to print the output, print text. So this is, so we are declaring we declared a variable inside the function, and we are using only within the function only. We are not using that variable outside the function. So if we use the within the function, it will give us the result as good. Sorry. One moment. So we didn't close the bracket. Yeah, now it works. Oh, name. Yeah, now it works. See, so here we are using that local variable inside the function only, because we created the local variable only. So when you want to try to access this local variable outside the function by creating a local variable, it doesn't allow us to access. So I'm trying to accessing that local variable outside the function. If you try to execute, we will not get any error. So because the text is not defined, so we are trying to access this local variable outside the function. Similarly, let's see how a global variable is going to work. So I'm creating a global variable called text good job, and I'm trying to access this inside the function as well as outside the function. So I'm accessing the global variable from the inside the function as well as from the outside the function. So if we execute this file, we will get two results. So this is how a global variable and local variable works, and this is how we can create a variables. And like I said, there are some rules we have to follow while naming variables, right? If we follow, I mean, if you want to try to create an invalid variable name, it starts with something all numeric and name, and you want to assign some name, it is not a valid variable name. So if you try to execute this, it throws an error 65 invalid decimal literal. So a variable should always start with the alphabet or an underscore. So here I'm giving name, it is one kind of variable, and I'm starting with some name. This is another variable and some name, this is another variable. So these are the This is how we can create a variable. We can use the alphabets in between the words or afterwards, but we cannot use the numbers at the starting of the variable. That comes under invalid variable. So that's it about variables, guys, and we saw some examples also. Thank you for all joining us today. We hope this video has shed light on the importance of Python variables, naming conventions, and inspired you to write clean and beautiful code. So don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more Pythonic goodness. Until next time, happy coding. Bye bye.